Okay people, here we have Birmingham city centre on a fairly quiet Sunday lunchtime. My car is ready to go, even though I only have 33 miles range left. I'll connect the engine, putting it in gear, small adjustment to the seat back, that feels comfortable, and the parking brake will automatically go off. The P at the top of the screen will disappear as I start to add power. If I was on a downhill slope, I might press the foot brake and manually switch off the parking brake because gravity would be sufficient to get me moving. So I've got a compulsory right turn coming up. It says turn right on the floor as well, and there's no entry signs in front. I will put a signal on. I don't want to have to try and put a signal on or even think about it while I'm part way through the junction. If I discover that there's a parked car with its engine running there, another one probably with its engine running because the headlights are still on and the door open, from which somebody might step back, and a car behind that was following me through the junction too. I've done my mirror checks. I've got a car coming from the right, so once I've turned out from the junction I'll need to pick up speed. Still in the 20 zone, white BMW following me a bit behind, and the scooter coming the other way was no problem. Single hazard line leading up to this roundabout means there are two lanes as I approach. No lanes marked on the roundabout, so I can use my body language, take up the middle position. No one to benefit from my exit signal. The white BMW has gone a different way and the oncoming car was too far away. My speed's a little high now, 23, so I'll let it drop back, 21 now and 19. I'll also move into B mode, which means that the car will brake for me to some extent when I come off the power pedal. Unfortunately, I cannot turn left here, which would have got me to the tram roads, which is what I want most, but it's now been turned into buses and taxis and bicycles only, so we'll go around the long way, around the back of King Edward's Wharf. Got a rectangle sign telling me that the ring road is over to the right. I suppose I could go that way. No, let's go the tram way. If I can think how to get onto that. Yes, I can. So I'm going to go left. I've seen the bicycle delivering food, so I will put a signal on to alert him, to draw his attention. Don't often see female food deliverers, do you? It's usually men. Young men who want to keep their muscles in good shape, I guess. So circular sign is the first thing I spot with a red ring around it, so I'm being restricted from doing something. And the icons on it are the next thing that I would look for, the colours of those confirming that I do not have priority if I move ahead. I am restricted from continuing to move down my side of the road if there's somebody coming the other way. Going slow enough to be able to see if there's any activity around these cars that have parked on the bend, and this van, which is obscuring the giveaway markings, parked just before this pinch point, so I'm only doing about 10 miles an hour. Mini roundabout, clearly signed, I can see it on the floor as well. I'm going to go straight ahead. Second exit, I've glanced right and left, looking ahead, nothing's coming, still doing only about 10 miles an hour. I'm not bothered about the fact that that might be causing people behind to have to travel only half the speed limit here. It would not be safe to travel at 20 miles an hour. Silver SUV is now, well, MPV really, is now slowly catching me up from behind. Big new building taking shape in front of us. Temporary road works, but because of the parking of that white van with its hazard lights on, I cannot see if somebody's coming the other way. I can now read the markings, and I will put a right signal on to let the Range Rover behind know that I am going to move out in front of it. And now I can come back to my side and identify, if not the warning triangle obscured by parked cars on the left, I can identify the red light. A red light is a pretty significant thing, whether it's on the back of a car or whether it's a traffic signal controlling the flow of traffic. So rectangle signs here. When red light shows wait here, the word here is in bigger letters. This is where the white line must be imagined. If it was if it was a permanent traffic light installation, there would be a white line near where the traffic signals are. I've checked my right mirror to make sure it's safe to build up speed. twisted that one-way sign around. It's one way going this way, and there'll be another sign at this end saying one way going the other way. Even so, people can come into this piece of road. Road in front's closed, so I will go to the right. I've checked it's safe to keep rolling. Mobility scooter in front is signalling to go the same way as me. Whether they stop at the red light or not, I do not know. No, he's gone straight through. And I suppose it's fair to say that as people get older, they are less inclined to stick to the rules, especially if they're feeling ill or inconvenienced permanently by not being able to walk and having to use mobility aids. So I checked around, there's nobody to signal to, so I can take my finger away from the control for direction signal, follow the road left into a new road. Information sign saying that there's a clean air zone with camera control. Circular sign after the warning triangle for traffic signals. Again, nobody to signal to here, so we'll just go round to the left. More traffic signals which I can now read, saying, well, they're green, but it's a separate pedestrian crossing there. And it is okay to stop in a traffic queue, even though these information signs say red route, no stopping. That is at the edge of the road. It's the same as if you're stopping in a bus stop. That is fine if you're part of a traffic queue, but not if there's nothing blocking your road space in front. So I'm going to go left at the roundabout, 30-mile-an-hour section of road. This lane says it can go ahead and left. There is a lot of traffic around, so I am going to use a signal here. If the signal cancels, I'll put it back on. The taxi behind has left and gone a different way. They were staying on the roundabout, so I might as well cancel that signal if there's nothing much else to do. Here we've got end of bus lane. I can see the solid white line that confirms that. 20-mile-an-hour zone, green traffic signal. There's the white line I was talking about earlier. So I'm moving ahead, got a cycle lane on the left, guy coming the other way on the bicycle, nothing coming from my right, and some yellow studs before we get to the double red line. The yellow studs confirming that I'm about to move on to a reserved area for trams. So we've got a diamond shaped sign saying 30, that's for tram drivers, 30 kilometers per hour. So that completely different shape and no red on it, to make sure that drivers do not confuse. And then we've got another rectangle sign saying through traffic has to turn left. So I will signal left because I've got a car behind. If I was clever, I'd actually put my tyres off the metal tracks because they will grip better, especially if it's raining. And I wouldn't have thought of that myself. It's because the car behind had repositioned that way. But it also means that I'm discouraging people on two wheels, which would be quite common near the city centre, to try and squeeze past on the left-hand side. Fine for my hands to be off the steering wheel if I'm stationary. If I get any clues that the lights are going to change, and at the moment I can see there's still a green light shining to the left, so I'm not going to be given a green light until that one changes to something else. Now it's changed to amber. Now I can get ready to go. There are pedestrians crossing, so I'll take my time. Now I'll speed up a little, looking at the next woman. She's slowed down and is pausing, looking at these pedestrians with a phone in hand, but they are looking at me, and the third one has just turned up. And I will loop around at the roundabout. Actually, I'll go to the right. So I'll put a signal on. It would be the same signal if I was doing a U-turn. Keeping the speed still at about 10, looking out of my driver's window, making sure I notice the keep clear area and that there's space for me to move off the roundabout so I'm not blocking other people's directions. Here this is private land, so the road markings may differ slightly. The size of signs, the fact that there's 5 miles an hour probably not visible on the camera. Different road surface which you wouldn't have, well, suppose you occasionally do get public highway that still has cobblestones, which are much more slippery. But the markings I'm thinking about are the zebra crossing. There was no give way dotted line either side of the white stripes, white rectangles across the road, but instead there were the words beware pedestrians written, because in an area that has the same surface material used for the pavement as for the road, which we've got here. Are they turning in? They're not signalling, but I will go past. No, I thought they might be backing up ready to reverse. And then I will cancel my signal so this little blue car knows that I'm going ahead. She and her children are waiting. I will go slowly ahead, otherwise the camera will drop out of the position sandwiched under the head restraint due to these strips of cobblestone across the brick pattern on the road, and that will be to make it slightly uncomfortable for drivers so they don't go too fast. The only through road is turning to the right, but everybody walking around me is very slow moving, so I don't particularly need a signal. Once again it says beware pedestrians, and there's writing on the floor getting them to look left or look right as well. Taxi drop-off point on the right, scooterist on the right, another pedestrian crossing, nobody coming near the edge of it. A big 5 in a circle on the floor, just reminding us that it's a 5 mile/h speed limit, which is what we are travelling at, so I won't go any faster, even though it's a straight line now and there's nobody around that would be inconvenienced by me travelling more than 5. If there was a collision, the same motoring laws would apply. It's just that the insurance company would be dealing with the potentially the landlord, the landowner, or the management company of this area. The signal's still red, so I'll wait until the barrier has gone all the way up. The sign says exit, barrier will lift automatically. Signal's still red, now it's green. Now we can move forward. So still the car has a stop line in front of it, so I'm pleased that it has stopped again. Lots of traffic here today, I wonder why. Lots of taxis. This one blocking the view of the right hand side of the crossing, so I will go slowly out of Brunswick Square, and now I will let people know which way I intend to go at the roundabout. Looking right, nothing coming, building the speed. Parking bays on the left for taxis. This little black car is technically being illegal, waiting there. They'll upset the taxi drivers, I'm sure, now they've put the hazard lights on. Now we've got a fairly complex looking blue sign guiding cyclists where to go. They go up off the roadway onto the pavement, or the footway I should say, and then do a double dogleg to get into a road over towards the left. Once again, on these traffic signals, the next to the lamps there is a blue circle with a white arrow pointing to the right, so that's the way we have to go. This lady isn't really going to benefit from the signal, and the cyclist is going through a red light, so I'm keeping an eye on him. And now that I've got a straight line, I can get information easily about what's behind, and I can build my speed because it's safe. That cyclist dressed all in black, with a black bag. Very difficult to tell that they're coming or the speed at which they might be moving when you've got other bright lights, as you often have in a city, behind them. So it took me an extra second to spot that they were there. Other traffic now is being guided off the reserved tramway. You'll be able to see signs saying height restriction, trams and buses only, go underneath there. Now we've got, as well as an information board, we've got a rectangle saying that buses and taxis can use the left lane, and bicycles, I think it said, probably motorbikes as well. And I'm going to approach the roundabout to go straight ahead, the third exit, looking to the right, slowing down, looking for drain covers and debris. At this roundabout, which is called Five Ways Roundabout, we've got some little dotted lines guiding the hazard lines that are on the left hand side of me from the end of the bus lane, guiding me towards the hazard lines that I ought to have on my left hand side when I get onto the roundabout. So I keep checking between right and ahead, keep those dots alongside the left-hand side of the car, and that takes me into the inner lane of 3, which very quickly becomes the middle lane of 3. I stay in that lane. It's a classic spiral roundabout. Now I signal left because I've gone past exit 2. I check my mirrors. I was checking them pretty much the whole time I was going around the roundabout, but the final check is after the signal's gone on to make sure nothing has changed despite my signal. My 2 lanes merge down to 1. The markings are fairly worn away there. This might be the little black car that was parked in the taxi area earlier on. There aren't many directions from which something might have come. Oh, there's been a fire up there at the top of Morrison's. Oh dear, that's a shame. That's obliterated their advertising. So here we have a 15 mile an hour speed limit for the trams. No U-turns allowed. We've got some illuminated studs. I'm still going to glance over my shoulder to make sure no tram or bus is coming. And some fairly complex colours and sign posts and lots of blue rectangles and circles and a pedestrian crossing and some builders' hoardings, making it difficult to tell what might be happening over there and what that might mean for where I expect the road to go. Also, the view of these pedestrians of buses as they wait at the bus stop is quite restricted, so they might step right out to the edge and maybe step off the pavement. But I'm clear of all that now, so I could build my speed, but I've got a motorbike filtering through the traffic. And having seen the red lights about 100 metres away, I'm dropping the speed. B mode will actually let the car slow down and recoup that energy. Do I want to go left? Yeah, I'll go left. And at that low speed, there's still time for 3 flashes at least. Nothing coming from the right at this give way. Glancing down, see where the curb edge is. Taking the steering off, straightening up, and increasing the speed because nobody's overtaking me. And I only know that if I check here and here. Potentially, if it was a zone such as a clean air zone or a congestion charge zone, I might expect there to be fewer motor vehicles and therefore more people moving about on bicycles and scooters. So I might well check on the left hand side. Interesting pink Mercedes in front. I can see the lights that are pointing to the right changing back to red, so I'm getting ready to go. Pedestrians are walking across the road, so I'll move slowly. And a pushchair as well. Don't know quite why she stepped out into the road at that point. Family group. Yes, interesting pink Mercedes with a personal number plate. Not my cup of tea. Looks like it's been wrapped with a matte finish. At least you can change your mind more easily. I don't know what it does to the paint underneath. I presume it doesn't create any kind of increased likelihood of rust. I guess it takes less preparation than repainting, even if it does cost the same. So I'm going to go, which way am I going to go? I'm going to go straight ahead. So default to the leftmost of any multiple lanes going ahead. There were blue Fiestas come up on my right hand side. It's fairly narrow at the piece of road directly in front, so I'm going to make sure I stay well to the left. I can't actually tell if there's going to be 2 lanes after we get over the yellow box. Put the parking brake on, always cues the traffic lights to change. I might as well let the Fiesta go first, no point in me using up fuel unnecessarily. And now I can see there are indeed 2 lanes, and a warning that I'm now in a bi-directional road, a 2-direction road. Deflection arrows in that lane are my cues to check in my right mirror and over my shoulder to make sure it's safe for me to keep moving, as opposed to having to reduce my speed. This guy walking towards the edge of the crossing, narrow pavement, might be about to cut the corner onto the crossing, so I was lifting off the gas slightly. And now I can go on the speed again, 26, 28, probably keep it at this for the curve, 29, now that the road is straightening, I'm up to 30, might even put cruise control on. Rest my feet because there is no chance of anything developing at the moment from my side, and I can lines, so nothing can physically change from the sides. A tree could drop down, I suppose, in the road, but it is not a windy day, so that's very unlikely. Slowing enough that I can possibly retain a little speed, doing about half a mile an hour. No, lights aren't changing. Coming down to my minimum distance from the car in front. If it moves promptly, which it has, then yeah, I did retain a little speed. With a heavy car, they're all heavy, especially if they're electric, it is worth retaining even a little speed. It will save fuel, because most of the energy is used up in starting to move rather than keeping moving. So looking to the right, covering the brake, blue car is leaving, I can keep going, 12 miles an hour, little red Micra approaching from the left, made eye contact with them, kill my signal, having checked the mirrors, put a left signal on for the sake of the black car behind, cancel the signal, and final check in mirrors before increasing speed, moving a little bit further away from these two pedestrians on the left, not this particularly narrow pavement, and then coming back to my normal position because of the cyclist coming the other way. Re-engage cruise control, downhill slope has taken me up to 31, then 32, but it's back under control by the car at 30 now. Conscious of the puddle on the other side, that might deflect oncoming cars onto my side of the road. And for this bend, I've got quite a few signs to take in, and a car emerging from the left. And because I can't see so far ahead, I want the speed to drop, so I disengage cruise by just pressing the end of this stubby stalk. So I'm down at about 25 miles an hour now. I'm slightly further away from the pavement because of that clump of pedestrians. Red traffic signals ahead and red brake signals. Slowing down, considering turning right. No, I'll go straight. 2 lanes going straight. I know there's another traffic light crossroads coming up soon, so I could have planned to move into that second lane, but it's about 200 metres away and there's not loads of traffic behind, so I think I will have an opportunity to move across one lane and then perhaps a second lane in order to position for turning right. So actually all the people that were coming up behind were turning right at that last junction, so I can move across without a signal, and then I can do my hazard routine for turning right at this traffic light junction. 4 cars are waiting on the junction at the moment. 2 of them have now gone. 4 is a bit risky. The 4th one barely has time to clear the junction before traffic from the right and the left starts coming. 2 cars on a junction at once is the safest. If it's quite a deep junction, which we have here, then maybe a 3rd car, you could be that 3rd car, but otherwise it's safer to wait at the stop line and you will get a better view as well. If you are waiting behind 3 cars, you've got 3 times as many chances that one of those cars will fail to move off or will move off more slowly than makes it practical for you to get off the junction before the lights are against you. So I'm watching the traffic lights pointing to the left and right, and they're still green. I'm also conscious of 2 pedestrian women who are waiting on my left. A right turn filter arrow for traffic that's coming from my right and going into the road ahead of me has just come on, and that tends to be the last direction that gets a green signal at a traffic junction. So I'm getting ready to go. My hands, my feet, the wait lamp is still illuminated on the pedestrian control box, and now the opposing flow coming from directly in front is having a green signal, including a green right turn, protected right turn. Now we can start to move, but not before I check those 2 ladies who are still waiting. If I time my speed, I can keep moving at the same speed, not speeding up so that these 2 girls can clear the junction, and now I can increase my speed. Range Rover behind us thinking of coming past me, but it's a very short stretch of 2-lane road before we get deflection arrows merging us into a single lane. So I'm back at 30 miles an hour, re-engage cruise control, no brake signals from the car in front, car behind moving along the same speed as me. So now we've got some brake signals in front. Considering disengaging cruise control, they've slowed down, but they're speeding up again. I'm still catching them up, however, so we'll disengage cruise. looks. I've rechecked behind and the lights hadn't changed, so I kept moving, checking left before even positioning about 6 inches to the left. Putting two and two together when I see the blue car coming out of the drive-through coffee place and the vehicle in front starting to show a brake signal, and interpreting the two things as probably going together, that this Volvo in front was giving up their priority to the blue Ford to be able to come out. I can see side roads on the left and the right. I can't see clearly ahead into lane 1 out of these 2 lanes, so for the time being I'm going to stay in lane 2. It may be blocked. Now it looks like it's clear. I will move to lane 1. It might be a little more bumpy, it might be slightly narrower, but I won't get held up by people wanting to turn right off this road, like the Volvo in front is just about to do. Still not obstructed in this lane, so I'll continue to move ahead at the speed limit. Taxi's clearing. No, taxi's doing a U-turn. So having checked my mirrors, I move out to avoid the area of temporary parking. Time limited, in other words, single yellow line. And on a Sunday, certainly parking is allowed there, but as soon as I can no longer see an obstruction, checking my left mirror, checking the crossing, because I don't want to take my eyes off for a long period in case the traffic signals start changing. I can see another obstruction. This time I'm going to use a right signal so that the Range Rover behind knows that I'm moving out, and that I don't give myself too little time to make that positional change. Traffic signals in front not changing. I can see an amber light come on through the back window of this blue car. Once again, I'm defaulting to the left because I cannot see an obstruction. I can see one well beyond these traffic signals, so I'm going to use the opportunity to come up alongside all this traffic. Once I've checked that it's clear, I can then accelerate and let the man behind know that I'm moving out to avoid the parked cars. So that is good planning for eco-safe driving and for ecology and for your own finances, because you're using less power by keeping the vehicle in motion. 20-mile-an-hour zone now. Slowing down. I don't want to turn left. Or do I? I suppose I could. I could then get in front of this car in front, maybe retain more speed. I'm having to use brake gently now, but I've still got 4 miles an hour, so I'll keep going straight. There are fewer interesting features to see going straight. I made eye contact with these 2 cars waiting on my side. They're stationary, so I can keep moving. Still got a 20-mile-an-hour zone. Scanning the street light poles and any other posts at the side of the road for any circular objects, circular signs in other words. Don't tend to see those used in advertising, so they're probably traffic signs if I see anything circular. Roadworks going on the pavement, the footway. That might mean people step out into the road, so I'm paying attention to any pedestrian and putting 2 and 2 together. This guy's approaching those plastic barriers, but he's gone on the left-hand side, the building side. Bus doesn't seem to have lots of people getting on board, so it's probably about to move off, and there its signals changed, so I can keep on rolling at 16. Dark coloured pedestrian with white shoes has finished crossing the other half of the road now. This lady is too far from the pedestrian light controlled crossing to bother me. I'm going to go left. I've done my mirrors, my signal, recheck left, check that Mini that's oncoming, check there's nobody walking across or stranded in this new road. Gently adding a little speed. I can see the traffic signals ahead have changed in my favour. This runner has glanced over his shoulder, is probably looking to run diagonally across the road. Man finished washing his car on the right, woman loading a disassembled bed into the back of her car. I'm going to go, which way shall I go? I will take the next right. Check behind, signal, let the speed reduce, check he's responding to signal. Use the space between the 2 sets of hazard lines where there's actually a gap in the diagonal stripes, and into onto the new road because I checked there was space to move into it. The road looks like it comes to an end, but I'm reading the tree line and the building line. Now I can see that it goes round to the left. I've checked behind in case I need to slow down a lot suddenly. Listening out for children, because there's a park over there. Looking for reflections, listening for sounds, and looking through the parked cars to make sure it's safe to proceed. Taking up the middle position because at the moment, with nothing oncoming and nobody following me behind, I've got an equal risk of something moving out between parked vehicles, which limit my view. I'm up at the speed limit of 20. I've looked underneath of those last two vehicles to make sure that nothing was about to step out. Nobody was about to step out, including any animals, although cats and squirrels can move pretty fast. Once again, approaching a bend which is quite blind. Bushes in the property's gardens opposite mean I can't rely on reflections, so I probably brought the speed down to about 6 or so. I wasn't actually looking at the instruments. The fence on the right hand side certainly blocked my view. Now checking mirrors coming to the other side of the road, still keeping the speed relatively low so that I've got time to scan underneath and inside and reflections on the side of parked cars. And then at the end of the road, getting ready to turn left, but there's nobody to signal to, so I can just bring my hand back onto the steering wheel and keep the car moving. I can see 3 or 4 hazard lines, so there must be some kind of hazard ahead, and the street name sign and the parked car, they all help me identify, and the building for that matter, that there is a T-junction coming up. I've checked right and left. I'm checking a second time. I've got time to move out. So I move out, keeping it slow so that I can accurately steer, straighten the wheel, and then before accelerating, check to see what's developing behind. White van in the distance, only moving quite leisurely, so I don't need to put a lot of speed on in a hurry. And no scooters and bicycles, who tend to forget that traffic signage does apply to them as well. Pedestrian's waiting to step out. He's started to walk. I haven't bothered to signal whether I'm going left or right because I've got a gentle curve, so my body language can speak for itself. But also, I'm about to put a flashing light on to the opposite side, and I've checked it's safe to go. So over we go. Let the speed die back so I can steer. Mini roundabout. I'm going to turn right. Check right and left. Again, nobody to signal to, nobody sitting in that Range Rover, nobody coming out of either of these 2 roads, and nobody to give an exit signal to either. So now I can bring the speed up. The black-feathered bird, they tend to be more intelligent, has seen me or heard me and is certainly moving out of the way in time. Speed cushions, provided I line up my seat with the bottom right-hand corner of the white triangle, then I get a comfortable ride even at the speed limit of 30 miles an hour. Checking my mirrors each time I want to reposition the car in the road to address the speed bumps at that most comfortable position. It's not always possible. So here, for example, there's nothing coming past, so I will actually straddle the middle of those 3 cushions, the centre one, number 2, but now I'm definitely back to the left one because of the oncoming traffic. Once again, I've gathered information as to whether there's anybody around. There isn't, so there's no point in getting any signals at this roundabout. Checking mirrors before leaving the roundabout, staying nice and wide of these 2 parked cars because I can see there's nothing likely to develop on the other side. This young man hasn't yet reached the edge of the crossing, so I can keep moving there. I spotted him, identified him early, then made an assessment. Might as well thank them. Yeah, 4 eyes. Identify, gather information, usually what's behind you, so that if you need to change your speed or position you can do so safely, only if it's safe. So identify information, then look at the thing that's developing, the hazard that's in front of you, or if it's a static hazard and you get closer, you are looking down on it more, which means you can assess it more accurately. That enables you to interpret it. So identify, gather information, interpret, and then implement a plan. And a lot of this will become second nature. There are not that many patterns in driving that make up 90–95% of situations that you'll find yourself dealing with, and we've covered a lot of them actually in this video. And subconsciously you will deal with those patterns. Your muscle memory, almost involuntarily, you will be able to coordinate your hands, feet, eyes and brain, but the brain isn't really engaged that much at a conscious level after you've been driving for a few hundred miles, and your experience base is starting to broaden. You will still come across rarities. I saw a video of a tree falling over at a junction yesterday, but I've never seen that happen in real life after 40 years, but it will at some point. So I'm going ahead. I've checked behind in case I need to do a hard stop, but no, the light's green. Glancing both ways, letting the speed die off because I recognise that the road is sloping down and I've got a curve. So speed came down to about 20, 22, speed coming up again 28. I'm going to go right, letting the speed die down, pressing very lightly to show a brake signal, pressing more to kill off the final bit of speed down to about 10 miles an hour so that I've got time to operate the steering, and then approaching the bend once again, checking centre mirror, letting the speed die off. We're down to about 11, changing my head position to look round the bend, straightening the steering, checking it's safe to accelerate, also checking in front to see if, well, to help me to plan how I'm going to make best use of the road space. And I can do the usual thing, the safest thing, which is to just keep in a straight line. It helps me to see best what might have followed me down the road, and then to steer to the left because I've got the best view on this side of anything else that might be coming. And you can see the kind of speed I'm moving at. Very slow, probably slower than walking pace, so that I've got time to look around out of the rear window. But in my mirrors, I haven't really used the camera, but it's fine to use that. The blue lines will help me to get the steering straight, although I can feel the position of the wheel because it has different mouldings on it. And I park fairly close to the electrical charging point. Secure the car, disconnect the engine, switch it off, and put some juice in.